go. And there's one chair over here if somebody wants to use that as well, instead of standing. Okay, everybody. Welcome to this session, which is a session within the World Standards Corporation. And World Standards Corporation is IEC, ISO, and ITU. That's when we work together for the working use of standards worldwide. So today we're going to check in to see what these three organizations can do to enhance the work of climate actions, to speed things up. And to do so, I will first ask Thomas Lumanevskas from ITU to say a few words, and then Vimal from IEC. Please, Thomas.
Thank you very much. As some of you who know me, and you know I'm not a big fan of lecterns, so I'll do this. And again, it's a great problem to have here when people are struggling for the seats. And I think we now have this trend in green digital action track, and I think that's definitely makes me feel very good about this partnership. So we launched indeed Green Digital Action Track. We launched on World Environment Day, June 5th, this year, as a way to prepare for COP28 to come together as an industry here. And I'm really proud that our partners in World Standards Corporation, ISO and IEC, really joined us from the day one in this endeavor and say, let's come together and let's make sure that standards really also correspond to the needs of today. Indeed, if some of you who listened to Antonio Guterres yesterday, he said, there should be a stop for greenwashing, and I think that's kind of no more greenwashing. I think the standards play a crucial role in that, because standards are, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not a standards expert, but is a agreed path, a commonly agreed pathway, commonly agreed methodologies, and they commonly agree that's important, and they're clear, and they allow us to really be on the same page and make sure that we compare apples to apples and we do what we committed to do. And I think so. Yesterday we had our Green Digital Action Track session on, for example, GHG emissions from ICT industry, and of course it's good to say that we'll reduce. But I think standards are the answer how we will do that. And of course, when we talk about standards, we also look at them in two ways. One is about implementing good ones, and we already had a session this morning and where we spoke about how to implement those right standards that we already have. We have at ITU, we have as ISO, we have as IEC, standard portfolios that help industry to really be greener. But in this session, we go in further, and we say, how can all our standard portfolio be sustainable and green? How our all standard portfolio could include sustainability by design? And I think that means it's only through then that we can really move the technology forward, because that would mean that every technology that comes to our standards bodies will already have that paradigm here. And again, I'm really, really happy that we are here joining together with ISO, with IAC, not only on the, and I'm really proud it's not only secretariat level, but ISO also on the membership level and the membership management level. We kind of brought the community together. That really shows a great commitment, and let's make it count. So let's have a great session today, and let's show the world what can standards do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for that. And now, Vimal, you come from IEC, where you are the vice president, but you also have a very important task within IEC because you chair the Standardization Management Board, and that's where everything happens. So please, Vimal.
Thank you, Ulrike. Like Thomas, I also don't like standing behind the lectern because then you wouldn't be able to see me. I have the height advantage there. So thank you very much, Ulrike, for this opportunity. Let me ask you all a quick question. Have you ever seen a wedding cake? Just give me a quick show of hands. Oh, good. Everyone has seen. So this is going to be easy for me. Think of a 3-tier wedding cake, and the bottom layer is, of course, the biggest one. Think of that as our environment, as the biosphere, as the world we live in. That's where we are talking about the climate change and mitigation of the climate action that we need to do. The second layer is the society, the energy healthcare, education, poverty, giving good enterprise action to all the people. And the third layer on top of it is actually businesses, where innovation takes place, where the human capital makes a difference to the world. Now it's obvious that if we really want to make a difference to our world, it's the bottom layer which has to be sound, effective and efficient, and then only the other two layers, society as well as business enterprise, can work. Imagine if business was thriving, but the world was not. That's a totally unsustainable situation. The good thing is that between these three layers, all the SDGs, if you were to put in, they work within these layers. And in IEC, we have seen that collectively, the standardization catalog, if you put together from ITU, ISO, and IEC, this pretty much covers all the SDGs across the three layers of this wedding cake. And my message to all of us, and including I'm looking forward to this session, is how we can all come together to make sure that wherever the gaps are, and I know that there are some gaps in standardization across the three STOs, how we can fill those to make sure that we have a complete catalog. I'll give you one example. In the session before this over here, there was a discussion that energy efficiency has to improve, to be doubled to make sure that we meet our net zero targets. Now, how do you do that? The good thing is that there is a roadmap for energy efficiency. I don't know if some of you are familiar with the IEC catalog of standards for energy efficiency. There are 5 tiers which have already been designed in that. And you can go from tier 0 to tier 5, and 5 being most efficient. Is that the ultimate? Of course not, because technologies are evolving and we can keep improving energy efficiency also. My ultimate message is, there are standards which can help us today. We must adopt those. And I think the whole discussion today, I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to it so that we can actually come together to make sure that we make a difference to this world. Thank you very much, Ulrike. Thank you.
Thank you, Vimal. And now I ask for some more food for thought as we go forward in this session. So Ms. Irina Kwagwasamanko, please take your floor. You're acting executive director for the Uganda Communication Commission, so please, you can use the lectern.
I think I should, so that the organizers don't feel like they put it there for nothing. And it will only support my hand after that, I'm afraid. So thank you, and I was just thinking, why do I even need to speak? Because Thomas and Vimal really did a good job of laying the stage for us. I like always putting the context. Every year when we have the World Standards Day, I'm always telling the people, do all of us stop and appreciate why we need standards? When I go into a shop, I don't have to try on all the shoes. I just have to say, can I have that shoe in this size? Because it's standard. So that's going to happen. And we've been going through always having the standards and saying they're about trade, about safety, and now we're talking about climate. And I think all of us are not oblivious anymore. It's no longer a cliche that we have to talk about climate change. We are doing all this critical infrastructure, but when you see the damage, then what's the fuss if you're not going to address the cause? And from our side, when we talk about digital transformation, and I'm going to the theme of saying sustainable digital technologies. I'm trying to dodge which one is on. Oh, sorry. So yes, we are doing digital transformation. And we say, as a country, if you're having all these processes, we're advocating continuously saying we need to adopt ICTs, we need to adopt digital transformation, digital economy, uplifting the livelihoods of our people through ICTs. And that gives me an example. If you stop and think about all these smart cities, if everything was digitalized, as we're saying, at the country level, at organizational level, at individual level, how much data are we creating? But that data has to be stored. That data has to be analyzed. So we need the data centers, right? But everyone says, what are the challenges of the data center? They need significant power. They need water. And now everybody says, we need them to run efficiently. It's no longer just about digitalize for efficiency. We're now saying even the digital should be efficient. And so if you do it one way, I was talking to Gabriela and telling, I'm going to quote one of her earlier discussions. Because if you do it one way and do it another, Thomas was talking about people saying we had to commit to a 0 level. If I do it my way, you do it your way, we're going to all argue that I have actually achieved when we might be in a different level. So how do we make sure we are comparing? When we're talking about standards influencing design, standards implemented, influencing the implementation of these products and systems and processes, standards implementing the use of them, standards implementing, comparing measurement. Coming from a regulator, of course, you can imagine, I can't not talk about the measurement. Because when you do the standards, we have to certify. We have to check that indeed you're complying, so it makes our work easier. I like, and I've always applauded the fact that the standards bodies came together. We typically argue, I'm supposed to do the standards for the other bit, I'm supposed to do the standards for the other side, but the standards need to speak to each other. So the collaboration in that process is very important. And when we talk about the international process, I'm one of those who's been with the ITU for many years. I won't say how many because I don't want you doing the maths. And I was telling Gabriela, I also used to go for the IEC meetings. And it's the richness of that process comes from bringing in the context from the different regions. I will be an expert and I'll feel an expert from my side of the world. But if I don't have an appreciation of, the context or the concerns from another place, from Shaline's continent, I won't be relevant. If we're talking about standards that fit the global people, the global community, then we need the technical experts to come together to be able to fertilize that process in terms of their expertise, in terms of their experience, to bring those tried and tested approaches. It's no longer that we are competing about the standards. Yes, we continue to compete at that level, but there are standards that actually have to be. And the mobile industry is one of those that gives us the perfect example of why it must. If it's not the mobile industry, it's the TV industry. Because people are no longer interested in saying, I need a TV for North America, I need a TV that will work in Africa. They just want a TV. I don't want to know I need a phone that I will work when I'm in Asia or UAE, and then one that will work when I go to Canada. I just need a phone. If you're telling me to be responsible, I don't have the same information you have. So how do we make that possible? Leveraging the technical experts that we all have. As you can see, this is a thing I get passionate about, not the climate change exactly, but the fact that we have a host of opportunity to be able to transform this country, this world, and this global space in terms of the work that each of us does. In terms of when we drive the digital transformation, when we drive that agenda, can we make sure that that agenda is still cognizant of the need to be efficient, safe, but also environmentally friendly? Thank you very much.
Well, cooperation is something that is, of course, essential for the three organizations that are here, which I have the possibility or the honor to be representing ISO. I should have said that when we started, that I'm the president of ISO. So now you all know that. But cooperation, I think, is a key for this change that we are in, that we have to reach out to each other. And we think, I think, from the standardization world, that we do actually have something to offer. We do have standards that could really help to change this and to move forward on climate actions. And I think we all want to feel that we leave something to our children, that we have been responsible in doing this and taking responsible actions that need to be taken. And so these three organizations have come together and made a commitment. And Charlene, please.
Good morning, everyone. I am pleased to deliver the statement by the World Standards Cooperation. International standards provide the foundation for shaping the digital transformation process and for scaling digital technologies in support of climate action. They build trust that globally agreed, state-of-the-art expertise has been applied. When they are consistently used in governance, regulations, and manufacturing, they make it easier to reach climate action. Solutions that are based on international standards are reliable, interoperable, cost-effective, and broadly applicable. As the world's leading developers of international standards, we pledge to uphold the principles that allow sustainability to be built into their development by design and to delivering the standards that make both business and environmental sense. Our commitment is to help the world reach net zero emissions, enable a resource-efficient, circular, and low-carbon economy in support of the United Nations Development Goals. Our standards reflect this commitment. The standardization structures and processes we have put in place put every stakeholder with a voice at every step. The IEC, ISO, and ITU welcome the active collaboration of all interested parties to ensure that sustainability continues to be a driving force in international standardization, and we invite all countries to adopt and apply international standards to accelerate the climate agenda.
Thank you very much for that. We'll see if they change the microphone. So thank you very much for that, Charlene. Now I'll ask these two gentlemen to leave place for three other gentlemen, because it's not only the fact that there is a commitment, a declaration. These guys have to act on it as well to see that something really happens. Otherwise, we will remember this as the declaration in COP28 that went to the archives. And we don't want that, do we? No. So I will ask with my first questions will go to IEC, Philip Metzer. So Philip, how will IEC standards contribute to the fight against climate change?
Thank you, Ulrika, and good day, everyone. I really feel very privileged to be here. It's a great pleasure for me to participate in this event together with my colleagues from ITU and from ISO. Of course, IEC and ISO are working very closely together on a daily basis for many reasons. Of course, ITU is our third core partner in the World Standards Cooperation. But I also particularly happy personally to be here because I used to work for ITU in a previous life. And so I think that shows, how the connections can go in our field of global standardization. And when I quickly come back to the IEC, and I would like to end, however, on the WSC note very much, of course, technology and clean technologies have been very much something that the IEC has worked on for decades, really since the beginning. And with the acceleration of sustainability as a key challenge for mankind, I think we have now a massive pickup in developing new standards that are much more targeted to really delivering sustainability results. I could give you many examples, be that in terms of, for instance, energy efficient lighting technologies, be that in terms of energy efficiency ratings, for instance, which are then also leveraged by the regulators. Of course, we also have challenges, for instance, when it comes to air conditioning, very topical area here today. And for instance there, in terms of refrigerants, it's obvious that we have to move on and find much more sustainable materials and inputs for that. And so I think what all this says is we have been working on this for a long time, but it's not good enough. We have to accelerate. And I think we are accelerating because the 30,000 and more experts that are contributing to the IEC every day, they come with new ideas, with new approaches, also with new demands of having standards and conformity assessment systems in the future that really can deliver on their own ambitions, and not only ambitions, also directives. I think every organization today, be it public or private, has sustainability as a key strategic objective. And we in the IEC, with our core expertise in electrotechnology and electronics, we of course want to really enable what we call a digital and all-electric society. And I think that is very much how we fit into this initiative together with ISO and ITU. It's called Green Digital Action. So digital is very much a part and parcel of that. We cannot become sustainable without leveraging those digital technologies, and that I think is a constant motivation and really a constant imperative for all of us every day. We are working, of course, also on making sure that those who are not connected today, not only in terms of mobile technologies or internet access, but also in terms of electricity, get connected and can use clean and climate-friendly technologies in the future. Vimal Mahendru, our Vice President and Chair of our Standardization Management Board, is the father of a new standard on low voltage direct current, an absolutely fundamental contribution for the evolution of those who are underserved and underconnected today in terms of electricity access. So I think we have already done a lot, but we have to do more. There is a clear call for tripling renewable energy in the overall package of energy access and energy production. I just came off an event with a new alliance that was initiated by utilities, global utilities, together also with IRENA, the International Renewables Energy Agency, with which we are cooperating increasingly. And it was very interesting to see their ambition as well in contributing to the sustainability goals. And I, of course, seize this opportunity. We are an ecosystem partner there as IEC to help them also in that endeavor, not only with standards, but also with a conformity assessment. That's something I wanted to emphasize very much. We are already running eminent conformity assessment systems in the IEC, global systems, so that we can have, in terms of renewable energy, but also in terms of electronic equipment and explosive atmospheres, for instance, we have a sort of a benchmark in terms of conformity assessment. We are taking that to a new level. We are now offering so-called carbon footprint verification services, which allow to verify how a given product is really meeting up with those claims that the producers often make that their products are carbon friendly or carbon neutral. And so that is certainly an important space to develop as well. Also, when it comes to hydrogen, we have core expertise in our system on explosive atmospheres, which now serves the development of hydrogen, green hydrogen, but hydrogen overall, which also makes a significant difference. But as I've said, all this is not enough. And I think what this initiative brings to us, this initiative together with ITU, together with ISO under the umbrella of the World Standards Corporation, to really push for green digital action in the sense of enabling future digital technologies even more to underpin sustainability. And I think this is not just a commitment today. You've heard how this is phrased. Thomas Lamanauskas, the Deputy Secretary General of ITU, has said the sustainability by design is absolutely key. And certainly today we can't claim, certainly I can't claim it for the IC, that all our standards are already sustainable by design. But we have to get there. And for that, we need not only the current efforts that our existing stakeholders already undertake, but we also need very much new inputs, new brains, new stakeholders, and that's maybe my call as well for action from an IC perspective. Everybody who has ideas, bring them to the standardization table in IC and ISO and ITU so that we can leverage on that. We will, of course, together continue assessing that and hopefully accelerate also based on our common commitment now and really give full life to that engagement, that action that we are standing for here today. So that's what I wanted to say at the outset. Thanks you.
Can you just shortly describe how regulators can be connected into the system?
Thank you. I've been a regulator myself in the past. And so regulators as private organizations too are very much challenged by the legislators, by the public, that what they do in terms of regulation helps sustainability, combats climate change. And so with these consensus-driven processes that we have, I mean, all our three organizations are very much bottom-up. And with that, we are quite, I think, certain in the end that we have been able to take into account all the different needs and the different perspectives, be that, you know, stakeholders in Africa, be that stakeholders in the Americas or in Asia. And that, I think, is a big strength because the regulator, when they leverage standards from ISO, ITU and IEC, they do know that this is a global consensus, that it is a best practice. It has been elaborated in a due process where the best and the brightest have come together and have given us the latest technologies that work, digital technologies that work for the regulators. So I think that is key if a regulator then needs to make a call on what he or she should regulate, or whether they could maybe refer to standards and having a much more light touch or self-regulating approach. And I think the experience proves, certainly in my own case as a telecom regulator previously, that these can be extremely effective tools because they are faster. You don't have to have a force behind it and an execution mechanism and go to courts and so on to make things happen. So I think that is a big contribution to the role of regulators.
Thank you very much for that, Philip. And now we move over to ISO and Sergio Mejica. And you are the General Secretary or Secretary General for the ISO organization. So in what ways are sustainability principles being incorporated into the development of international standards at ISO?
Thank you, Ulrika, and welcome everyone to the Standards Pavilion. This is for all the standard maker organizations, and I hope you feel at home here. How do we make it happen? Well, this statement represents our shared vision, our shared ambition, and the first thing we need to do is to capture that in the strategy of the organizations. In the case of ISO, we've been creating technical specifications for products, processes, services for 75 years. But when we defined our vision, we realized that this is not about things. This is about people. And the very purpose of our organization is to serve people, making their life easier, safer, and better, as you can see in the ISO vision, which is in this very pavilion. So that's number one. Then a strategy needs to be translated into concrete actions. And for that, we signed the London Declaration some time ago, and we created a very concrete action plan. So what is it what we want to achieve? Number one, we have many powerful standards that can support the sustainability agenda. In total, ISO has a portfolio of 25,000 international standards. But if we want to be part of the solution, we cannot go to business, we cannot go to the organization and say them, we have 25,000 international standards, use them wisely. It doesn't work like that. We need to make sense for them. We need to package them in a manner that will facilitate the implementation in the real life, and especially for SMEs. That's really, really important. So the first thing we did was to create a mapping exercise so we can identify the most powerful, the most impactful standards to support organizations to achieve their climate commitment. And second, we also decided that we needed to review some of those standards because many of them have been drafted in the past, and many areas of climate change are emerging areas, and we need to incorporate that science in our standards. The issue is, and the secret, is that standards are created by experts, by the brightest mind in the world. That's true. And experts don't like to be told what to do. So how do we incorporate climate science into our standards? So we have put together a pool of climate experts that will advise our technical committees to make sure the climate science is incorporated in our standards. So that is very important, I think. And also in the creation of new standards. That's the backward looking, but we also need to incorporate climate science in the forward looking creation of standards. So we have a concrete guide, Guide 82, that will support our experts to incorporate climate science in their new standards. And we also have the commitment to work with a strong sense of urgency. And we have a very concrete example. A year ago, Ulrika, you launched our net zero guidelines that were created in 4 months with more than 110 countries participating, with many organizations, several of them out of the ISO system. So we really incorporated everyone's minds and effort so we could create these net zero guidelines in record time, in 4 months. So we can make it. We have proven to the world that this is doable, and that reflects our commitment.
Yes, ISO does have quite a big scope when it comes to standards, and you talked about other organizations. We have a great collaboration with the ITU and IEC, but there are other organizations that we need to meet as well. How does ISO work with that?
Thanks, Ulrika. The first thing there is the vision that if we want to be impactful and effective and useful to the business community, we cannot work in isolation. And I'm very proud of ISO, of our standards, and mainly in the process we follow to create our standards, because we work by consensus in an inclusive manner, transparent manner. We give a voice to everyone, and especially to developing countries, and that's great. But still, I know that with the ISO standards only, this is not good enough for business and organizations. So we need proactively to combine our talents and to make sure that we make sense, because the users don't care if this is ISO, IEC, ITU. They want relevant solutions to their problems so they can comply with their commitments. So in concrete, we have incorporated some tools. First, within the IEC, ITU, and ISO world, we have created the so-called SPCG, which is a meeting of experts that meet on a regular basis to compare notes about what do we have in our plans, to make sure that we do not create overlapping standards and we do not contradict ourselves. But we need to go even beyond this small community, and that's why we have proactively identified some key strategic partners we need to work with. A very good example is the partnership that you launched yesterday, Ulrika, with the IFRS. So we know that using the family of ISO standards, the 14,000 family, and some standards related to carbon emission, and if we combine that with the standards of the ISSB, we can provide a much better solution to the users. The same thing we're trying to do with the UNDP in terms of the SDGs. So we're working together to co-create a standard that would support industry, business, organizations to implement the SDGs at their local level so they can be part of the solution and not part of the problem.
Yes, and I think everybody recognized that IFRS, who's running the international accounting system for all companies, is quite important. So we didn't want them to invent new standards. but come to us to use our standards, of course. And I think that coming to ITU now and Seiso One, please tell us what are the key areas addressed by you when it comes to sustainability?
Thank you, Ulrika. And it's a great honor to be here. This is for the first time to join the COP. Actually, very intense discussion around there. So I'm very honored to be here. So then, thank you for the question. I can talk about how ITU work on climate actions. So let me touch on the three key areas: measurement of our climate impact, and energy efficiency, and circular economy. First, regarding measurement, our standards provide tools to monitor our progress toward net zero emissions. With measurement methodology to assess the environmental impact of digital technologies, as well as their success in helping to reduce the environmental impact of other industry sectors. Second, energy efficiency. Our standards for energy efficiency define how big data, AI, can support smart energy control for telecom site and data centers. Control that gives priority to the intake of power from renewable and low-carbon energy sources. Our standards also support the introduction of innovative cooling solutions for data centers and provide best practice for the green data centers. Next, about the circular economy. Our standards provide tools to improve material efficiency, limit e-waste, and dispose of e-waste sustainability. To make an example, we have a standardization project underway to develop a sustainability passport for digital products. We aim to build global consensus on the product information required to facilitate and achieve circularity in the industry. We need verifiable data to gauge our success achieving circular economy. Having verifiable, machine-readable information could enable automatic comparison of product attributes relevant to the circularity. And with the required degree of interoperability, all stakeholders and systems could make use of this information.
Thank you, Sei. So you mentioned global consensus. So I guess that means that you have to have other partnerships going on. So how do you work with other partnerships without not these two counting, of course?
Yes. Yes, everyone is innovating with digital technologies, and this digital transformation creates a convergence in the business of different industries. Achieving our global goals will demand cohesive innovation and cohesive supporting standards. That's why ITU is so invested in the bringing together experts from the different sectors, as well as regulators experiencing the convergence in their responsibilities. Our standardization platform must continue growing in value to a growing number of stakeholders. Today, our standards need to meet the requirement of diverse and expanding range of industries. Our standards now support digital transformation in areas from energy and transportation to healthcare, financial services, agriculture, and smart cities. They are also helping everyone to take advantage of AI and machine learning. Now, new partners from different sectors are reinforcing their partnership by working together on international standards. And also, we have, in addition to the study groups that membership-driven driven activity, but we have a focus group. A focus group is open to all, so we can invite everyone around the world. So also we have some initiatives. AI for Good is one of them. AI for Good very now attract many interest from the other industries. So we have many collaborations on the global initiatives. One example is AI for Good, global initiative on AI for health. And also we have the United for Smart Sustainable Cities and the Digital Currency Global Initiative. As such, we have such collaboration with other industries. So that makes happen many things for the taken for the climate actions. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. That's really good to hear the collaboration you have outside your own organization and with the outside the World Standardization Corporation as well. Philip, you mentioned earlier the conformity assessment and how and why that is important. I think there's something in that everybody needs to know why this is so important.
Yes, thank you very much, Ulrika. I think, of course, we have a coin here with two sides. One is to indeed produce and use standards, and the other one is to measure how you live up to those standards. And I think that's why conformity assessment is so key. And it is probably, I've just had a number of missions to members of the IEC in Africa. It's probably even more important at this point, also for countries in development, to be sure for their quality infrastructure. And quality infrastructure means sustainable infrastructure, infrastructure that is respectful of the environment, infrastructure that is helping to combat climate change. And I think to achieve that, these countries are extremely dependent on reliable assessment of the conformity of what is being produced and what is being deployed. It's very interesting to see how many of the actors who use our conformity assessment systems are actually established globally in all those countries and provide services to those governments, but also private sector and the society at large to ascertain that the standards are properly used and produce the results that are aimed for, and if not, to have a sort of analysis of the gap and what needs to be done more. So I think our experience shows, if you take all our 4 conformity assessment systems together, we consider this to be sort of the largest, if you will, mutual recognition agreement in the world. I think it's very important to empower many actors who can produce conformity assessment so that those who need to rely on those measurements and on those certificates can easily get them also through market mechanisms. I think that is a key point. And I think it's a particularly important point in terms of sustainability and climate change.
And I would add to that, if we want to get out of greenwashing, this is key for everybody, really key. Well, we talked about the technical committees that you run in ISO, the 25,000 international standards, but all those experts are not always agreeing, and some people might not get into a technical committee. How do you work with that?
Thank you, Ulrika. From strategy to operations. First, we have a strategic goal in the ISO strategy that says all voices should be heard. And this is not because we want to be nice. This is because we believe that it's an essential component of the value proposition of ISO. I can get you a new standard in 2 weeks if I work from Geneva with 3-4 experts and problem solve. But that is not what we believe in. We believe in a process that follows some key values that has been established by the World Trade Organization. So it goes all the way from experts working in the creation of a new standard to the World Trade Organization. So how do we do that in practice? First, the national delegation principle. It is through our members, 170 countries, that you need to leave the stakeholder engagement piece at the national level. That means that we enable our members so they connect with consumers, with SMEs, with experts from the industry, with government, with academia. So it's mainly at the national level where the stakeholder engagement should happen. Then they create a national position and go to the international level for our technical committees. So we talk about the double layer of consensus. First, consensus at the national level, and then at the international level. And there we have a second opportunity to incorporate the voice of various stakeholders. So that is how the system works. But we know that if we really want to be effective and impactful and credible in our solutions, we need to make sure that all voices are heard.
Thank you very much, and that goes for the credibility for the standard at the end of the day, of course. Now, Stacey, we all came together here for this meeting, the World Standards Corporation, and we've had this standardization pavilion, if I may say so, for this COP28, and there's going to be a lot of talk about standards here. So what kind of message do you think that COP28, we should give to COP28 going forward?
Yes, I have some scripts, but I thinking now that this session is just focusing on the standards because standardization session. But last week, previous days, I joined several different sessions and participate in this listening. So there are many discussions. Many people want standardization for climate actions. So I understand that we are required, we are needed. Our work is very important for the climate action. So then we need to work together with standardization organizations, also involving other industries. So that's let's continue this work for the climate action. That's my message.
Well, thank you very much for that. And I think that we will keep these three, the rest of us in the room, and for instance me, the Council of ISO and your boards will see to it that you do deliver on this commitment, because there's a lot of brand issues here, right, Vimal? We have to deliver. Thomas? We have to deliver on this because the world is watching. We have proudly told the world that standards can actually mean something going forward. So there is a lot of people watching us, and so we have to deliver. So thank you very much for this, and we do all remember now the commitment that you have made, and there will be people following up. Thank you everybody for taking part in this panel today. Thank you very much.